there may be nicks and chips and bumps and bruises, and patching them up in this sense of smoothing it out and making the blemish disappear is not a thing that I pride myself on doing. Do I identify somewhere in, on, and or around the LGBTQIA spectrum that, you know, really has, I feel like, no ends and no limitations? Absolutely. I most often, when I'm sort of trying to explain that portion of my identity, I'm like, I'm queer. I'm just a big old queer, and I love being a big old queer. It's true. Like, I am a big old queer, a big old. And it took me a really freaking long time to get to that identity. And not as though I was trying to push myself through spaces to find something that was trendy, or something that was recognized by the rest of the world, but it just took me a really long time to understand that my identity was actually my own. So I got to create it, and I got to choose what I identified with and how I presented myself for whomever, whenever. That it was all about how and what I wanted. Do I identify as a person of African descent? Yes. You know, I think that's very much a portion of my identity. I don't think, I know. Let me rephrase that. I know that that is very much a portion of my identity. Finding that portion of my community has not been the easiest thing in Tucson for me to do. It feels to me like I don't have a lot of places where the totality of who I am is just accepted and it's always understood. And, you know, I feel like that's definitely siloed, and not siloed in a bad way, but like broken up amongst different communities. I come with a lot, and I enjoy coming with a lot, being recognizing and understanding and embracing all of the things that make me who I am. Some of those folks that I feel like, right, like if I'm sitting down with this person, I'm not going to bring up this thing. Like, I know we don't talk about this thing. We don't do that. We talk about these things, and that to me is like sad in some ways, because like I don't have to be a singular thing. I can be all the things. And so I feel like, you know, as humans and as this human, there's a lot of intersections happening. I feel like I grow by interacting with others, by hearing their stories, by getting to know how their lives connect, intersect, juxtapose against my own. My job is to learn and to grow and to engage, to give as much as I get, and to continually work with others to create spaces, places that support ourselves, other people. I first came to Tucson, I got a job with an entertainment company out of Evansville, Indiana. And so they hired me to do this edumatainment show. So edumatainment, right? So it's educational, yet it's entertaining. If you put those together, you get edumatainment. It was this really crazy, like, science experiment, dance, fancy lights type of show that brought me out here. I got hired, I think, on a Monday. By that Wednesday of that very same week, I had packed my stuff, helped pack a Penske truck with some set pieces, and started driving out to Tucson, and was here by Sunday of that week. Even though it was so vastly different from what I had come from, and even quite different in a lot of ways than what I had expected it to be, that desert, that base sort of barrenness, which I think gives space to so much fruitfulness, it gives space for so much creation and creativity, has definitely been an anchor for me in this place. I feel like Tucson is it's a continual sort of work in progress, which allows you to be a work in progress and to create works with other people. Definitely the people in Tucson. So as much as There are folks that I'm like, I probably could have lived my life without having met you. That's cool. There's also this real wealth of interesting, amazing humans just sort of doing their thing in Tucson. And lots of those humans who are like, hey, I'm doing a thing and I hear you do a thing. So why don't we do a thing together? Or, hey, I'm doing this thing and I could really use support. Do you know how to do this thing? Oh, would you like to learn? So I love Tucson for the fact that like it's not only a place where you can go and create and be and yeah, and grow and learn. It is a place where like people are really good about just being like, hey, do you want to be a part of something? Because I have something for you to be a part of. So that everybody's kind of always learning and growing together and teaching each other. I need to be able to live in that artistic space and have a place where all of my wild ideas can come to rest and be kicked around by other people who have really wild ideas, and where we get to come together and just sort of create chaos in order to create beauty, in order to create destruction, and in order to illuminate the dark, but also to like actually show the shadows and to bring the shadows. One of the things I learned is I didn't just slip into wholeness. Like, right, that wasn't, I didn't make a whole human. I've always been whole, right? So like the journey has been getting to a place of understanding that and knowing that. I didn't just wake up one day because I had done all the things I needed to do to be whole. Like I always was whole. It was sussing that out and pulling that out from the rest of the world around me, to see my own wholeness. Like I'm not broken, right? So I don't need to be mended. I'm whole. There may be nicks and chips and bumps and bruises, and I'm not even so sure for me like patching them up in this sense of smoothing it out and making the blemish disappear is not a thing that I pride myself on doing. I enjoy carrying my scars and my blemishes and my cracks and those like deep rivets, because those are a part of me and it gives me space to keep lots of lovely and wonderful things in. It's like my special little pockets. But that also then becomes this space from which I then learn how to move with this new thing. And so it doesn't become a hindrance or this thing that is just attached to my ankle as though it's some weight. It becomes the fabric of wings. I've always been this wonderfully weird human that I love. And that has been good and good enough for me. I've been in Tucson for 16 years. I can count probably on at least my fingers and my toes, like, right, the folks of African descent that I engage with on a very regular basis. Being able to engage in a project whose aim is to bring community together. So that in and of itself was super exciting to me. And I also feel, for me, one of the really big things is like I feel like I almost never get asked to do things that are about folks like black folks or folks of African descent, or like that's not a thing that people really reach out to me for. And I think some of that is just an idea of who I am and what I am, which perhaps again for some of those intersections doesn't necessarily always intersect, right, in this particular community culture in the way that I would hope that it would. And so I was like also kind of like, oh, it's kind of cool to be recognized, right, for who you are, for all those pieces of who you are.